Welcome, everybody, to the You Are Worthy Work. I'm your host, Steve Wormer. Excited to be with you this Wednesday morning. For those of you that follow me closely, you're like, Wednesday morning? What's he doing on a Wednesday? He doesn't do interviews on Wednesday mornings. Well, surprise, surprise. I do them occasionally, and Elaine and I worked it out where we could do Wednesday morning. So, good morning, everybody. And in case you're watching this and it's one of your first times watching, and you're like, what is this You Are Worthy Network? Somebody I really trust invited me into this, and the name caught my attention. I trust my friend, but what is it? I'll try to be brief on that explanation. You Are Worthy is an answer, first of all, to my own stinking mindset, because I, for way too long, see if you relate to this, was telling myself I wasn't worthy of this, I wasn't worthy of that. And this word unworthy just kept going over and over in my head. And even though I knew it wasn't true here, I had to get it deep here before I could start helping other people with their own mindset struggles. So I wanted to have an answer. And the answer was I decided I was going to launch this podcast. By the way, God has totally blessed it. We're almost at 18,000 people in less than a year. And we interview incredible people with incredible success. However, people with incredible success don't get there without seasons of wilderness and overcoming, and guess what? Their own bouts of unworthiness. So we just want to bring you successful people, but also people that are vulnerable, people that are not afraid to share their story, because we all need a little encouragement and hope in a very dark world. That, in not so short, is the You Are Worthy Network. So now I'll get on, and I know you want me to get on, with introducing you to Elaine. Elaine Mingus is the founder of Pageantpreneur, a social media strategist, speaker, and current title holder who helps pageant women turn their platforms into opportunities. Through storytelling, branding, and content strategy, she teaches women how to grow their visibility, attract sponsors, and create careers that extend beyond the crown. A former award-winning blogger and entrepreneur, Elaine has built multiple businesses, generated millions of video views, and secured more than $87,000 in sponsorships. She believes pageantry is more than a competition. It's one of the most powerful leadership and business development tools available for women. As host of the Pageantpreneur podcast, Elaine shares practical strategies that help contestants think like entrepreneurs, build memorable personal brands, and create lasting influence both on and off the stage. Elaine, welcome to the You Are Worthy Network.
Thank you so much for having me. And don't you love ChatGPT for making making me sound really amazing?
That's not fair. You were amazing before ChatGTP. It does help though, doesn't
It
it?
does help. It makes it all super succinct, right?
Yeah, goodness. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation where AI is going. It's pretty amazing some of the things it's doing for sure. I was talking there just for a minute before I read your bio about the growth of the group, excuse me, and I love it that people are watching from all over the world. Tell us what corner of the world you call home.
So I am in Texas. I am in the heart of Texas in Austin, Texas. I think it's the most beautiful part of Texas. We've got a little bit of allergies, but in general, the hill country is just an absolute breathtaking sight. I'm a big fan of Texas. There is Texas and there is not Texas. So if you tell me you're from a certain state, I probably don't know where it's located geographically on the map. I'm joking. I probably do, but I'm a big fan of Texas, born and raised.
Yeah, I like Texas too. I've been to Austin twice. It's been a minute. Austin has incredible food.
Yes.
And I'll be in Texas actually in a few weeks, but nope, not Austin. I'll be in another part. But yeah, I love Texas for sure. So tell us in Austin who you do life with. Tell us about your family.
So I have a very large family of nine. I am a mother of seven. Me and my husband have been married for 23 years, and we just started right out the gate. Our oldest is 22, and our baby boy is 8. And so it is a very busy, wild, chaotic world out there. I've heard this saying that says when you are trying to clean while having children is like brushing your teeth while eating Oreos. And I think that that is the epitome of my life in general. It's just beautiful, chaotic, messy, and I'd have it no other way.
7 kids.
5 girls, all of them teenagers except one. Actually, all of them teenagers except the adult one and the 8-year-old.
And where do the boys fit into the order?
So the boys are at the bottom. They're numbers 5 and number 7. And so just starting to kind of enter into boy mom world where there's lots of bats and balls. There's a lot of testosterone. My son in the middle of the kitchen one day just started screaming. He was like 5 years old and he just goes, I feel so angry. And I was like, and he was like very violent, like kind of like excited about it and kind of that like weird energy. And I was like, oh, I've entered into a different territory of scary places because all of my girls were so quiet. They played Barbies, and I could have moments where I could actually think when there's boys in the house, and especially the last one, he chatters a whole bunch on top of beating up the walls. So it's an interesting world I'm entering in right now.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I could be wrong because all kids are different, but I think you'll find when they're all grown and out of the house, you'll look back and say the boys were easier. But
I'm,
I know
I'm
you don't. I know you don't see it yet.
I am absolutely positive the boys will be easier. Yes, maybe not physically as easier, but emotionally for sure. Because the
Yeah.
girls, they all are they're girls that we feel things deeply. We talk loudly, and so it's I understand that sentiment for sure. But I'll be sad when they all grow up and go away. I thought that I'd be happy because I had so many and I was always so busy. But now as they're leaving the house, I find a great sadness with that, an emptiness
Yeah.
that happens because I realize, oh, they're not always all underneath my own roof, which is sad. But
Yeah.
they gotta fly the coop at some point.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. It's hard. It goes fast. So when the nine of you are together, what do you guys like to do for fun?
Goodness, we love camping so much. My husband, I didn't actually come into the marriage enjoying camping. Camping as a child was a very stressful event. We only did it a couple times. But when my husband really just, he loves nature and the children love nature. And so we go to Garner every year, which is a Texas park here. And it is a beautiful family park every summer between like I think June and August. They do nightly dances. So it's super campy. All the kids rope swing during the day and then they all dance together, country and western at night. And we don't get that very much anymore. My mom grew up telling me stories of, going to the KC Hall and dancing every Friday night. And, we don't really have that as much anymore. And so it's lovely to see children learning how to dance and doing something that's not, scrolling their phone.
That's cool. No, it's how often do y'all do that?
We do it about once a year. We try to go also to Great Wolf Lodge once a year and let the kids just roam around and do water parks during the Christmas time when, it's the 1 month a year that it's cold in Texas, so they can get back in the water. But yeah, so that we do about once a year. But we
No, that's
camp
cool.
we try to camp more than once, but Garner we do once a year.
And where's Garner exactly?
It's near Uvalde, which is South Texas, so near the border.
Okay. Yeah, is that close to Rio Grande?
It is on now I'm gonna blank. What river is that? Frio River. So not that far down, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Um, let's have a little fun for a second. Not that that wasn't fun, but let's do this or that. Rapid fire questions, get to know your personality a little bit. Don't overthink it and try your best not to say both.
Okay.
But I know it's hard. Chocolate or vanilla?
100% chocolate. The darker the better.
I'm I'm with you. Small town or big city?
Ooh. I grew up in a small town. I do love me some small town, but I am a big city girl.
Books or podcast?
Ooh. When I was little, I would say books, but now I definitely say podcasts because I'm just too
Okay.
busy to stop and read. And I listen to books.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, yeah, I'll digress. I saw somebody reading a book from their car recently, reading the book on the steering wheel, but that's a whole nother
I'm sure that was my second born. I'm pretty sure that you saw her.
story. Early bird or night owl?
Ooh, I am a night owl, so you're hurting me at this 10 a.m. podcast. Like I should still be drinking my coffee in my PJs right now.
Too funny. Well, I think we know this answer based on what you've already said. Camping or hotel?
Oh, for me, hotel. For my
Huh.
family, camping. But me, I'm a hotel girl. Give me clear water that I can see my feet. I don't want to not see my feet. I don't know what belongs underneath the lake. I don't like it. I need air conditioner, but for the sake of my family, we do camping, but 100%
Uh,
hotel.
I love it. I love it. Ocean or mountains?
Ocean.
That's a tough one for me too. I think you already answered this one too. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee. The darker, the bitter, the stronger, the better.
Yeah, I'm with you. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Drive or fly?
Hmm. Fly.
Okay. And lastly, cook or take out?
Oh, takeout. Who has time for cooking? I'm over here drinking energy drinks and protein shakes and anything that is easy to go. No, 100%. Bring
You
me
got
to
a
a restaurant.
family of nine. Let
Yeah,
the
I
lady
don't
have
want to cook.
cook take out. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, and they won't even eat my food anymore. They Uber Eats everything, and I'm like my food just sits there rotting. So I'm much more takeout for sure. Save
Oh, it's so
everybody
good.
some hassle.
Yeah, no, that's fun. That's fun. Let's have a little more fun. Let's get in the time machine and let's go back specifically to your senior year in high school. And even more specifically than that, let's say, for example, graduation was on a Friday. I don't know if it was or not, but let's say it was on a Friday and it's Tuesday. You've got the cap and gown. Maybe you have the class ring. Maybe you are the one that went out and bought the beach ball for the ceremony. I want to know where you were in your head at that time. And 17, 18-year olds, they're all over the place. There's no right or wrong answer. But like at that point in your life, were you, hmm, I guess I better get serious. I guess I should get a job. I'm going to miss this place. I'm going to miss my teachers, my counselors, the principals, even. I'm going to miss my classmates. I don't know what I'm going to do after this summer. I don't even know what I'm going to do this summer. Or on the other end of that spectrum, get me out of here. How do we get past the next 72 hours with my sanity in check? I've got senioritis on a 10 scale, it's at a 12. I don't care about this place. Get me out the door. I've already got a job this summer. I know what I'm going to do in the fall. I know what I'm going to do with my life. Let's go. Or are you somewhere in between?
So, I graduated in 3 years of high school. So I took extra hours during the summer and at night to make sure that I could get out as fast out of the small town I was in because I had a, semi-tumultuous childhood and teenage life, and I just couldn't wait to get, onto my dreams. I was gonna live and work in New York City, have a big corner office, and be the next Connie Chung. And so that's what I, was feeling probably at that time. I love my friends. I loved, working hard, but I knew I was meant for something greater. So I was ready to get out of there.
Okay, raring to go. And for our younger viewers, tell them who Connie Chung is.
So Connie Chung was an Asian American TV journalist. She was actually started out in like politics and eventually had kind of her own little show where she was interviewing people. And so when I grew up, it was the early 90s, late 90s. It was Barbara Walters, Connie Chung, interviewing very high profile people and making headway as female journalists and people that were actually in the seats that only males had once sat in. And it was a very interesting, of course, Connie Chung she was very beautiful. She, wasn't trying to play by the rules in the sense that like I'm a man in a man's world, so I have to look like a man, I have to act like a man. She very much had like a feminine appeal as well as just a very serious intellectual appeal. And so she was on the air, and I just remember thinking, that's going to be me one day.
That's awesome. I remember her. I'm a little older than you. I remember her pretty well. I remember Barbara Walters in her prime, so to speak. And from my recollection, Barbara was a lot more controversial, certainly groundbreaking, certainly a great interviewer, very influential, got the best interviews. Connie struck me as this is just my perspective. She struck me as a little more dignified, a straight shooter, great questions. There was just a dignity that she carried herself with. Would that you think that'd be fair?
I think so. I think so. I'm actually reading her biography right now, and just everything about her was very organized in business, it seems. And she was looking to play along a little bit because she knew that's what got her ahead, but then also knew how to, break the mold a little bit. So I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking Barbara at all. It's just
No, I love
she had
Barbara.
that
Yeah.
reputation, you know. So tell us about how that pursuit went. Did you make it to New York? How did it go?
So I came out of high school with a very serious drug addiction due to some trauma that had happened. And so in one hand, I balanced being on National Honor Society, being, one of the top of my class, straight A's, scholarship to University of Texas and the journalism school, graduated in 3 years, was an avid reader, avid writer. But on the other hand, I was balancing this very precarious situation. I had a very dangerous eating disorder. I was doing drugs, as much as possible, drinking as much as possible, and getting in just very dangerous situations. And so when I went to the university, I actually ended up just not even telling anybody I dropped out. I just stopped going. And I loved the classes, but I just loved, partying more. And so I actually ended up because I dropped out, I didn't drop out, I just didn't tell anybody. I had a point 0.2 GPA. And so when I eventually went back, I had to work up from there. Let me just tell you, younger kids, it's a lot easier to maintain a 4.0 than to come up from a zero. So yeah, it was. I didn't make it in the traditional way because eventually, there's a whole transaction that happened there that really transformed my life that led me to kind of not a different dream, very much similar dream, but just a little bit deeper.
Now you got me curious. Because I know you married fairly young too. But we'll get to that. So, okay, tell us how it unfolds. Like, okay, you eventually went back, but before that, are you able to communicate with us what was the root cause of the addiction and the drinking? 'Cause I mean, look, I party too, and it's not uncommon
I just realized I
for
didn't have one of my earrings on. People are
I
like,
didn't
"Why
even
does she only have
I
one
didn't even
earring on?"
notice. That should I'm a
I didn't notice until just
that's hilarious. I'm that
now.
guy that my wife can put a new painting on the wall and I notice it like 8 months later. So
Oh my gosh, it's like if I have one eyelash on and I walk out and no one told me.
she did say she hadn't had her coffee yet. So
I know. All right. I've got
too,
two earrings on. We can proceed.
let's go. That's too funny. Tell us what you think the root cause would that led you to some of the excessive partying, and if you feel comfortable with it, what drug specifically were you addicted to?
Sure. So my mom and dad lived in a big town in Houston, Texas, and they decided we're going to move our children to a small town, keep them safe, keep them away from all the drugs, keep them away from all the bad things that could
Oh,
happen. And, and I understand why, but, evil lurks in every corner of the globe. And so we got involved in a small town church, and the youth pastor there was grooming not only me, but multiple girls in the youth group, and just took advantage of his position of authority. And I was one of these girls. And so when it was found out that this was happening, I was taken to the church from with my mom to confront the pastor saying, this awful thing happened. What are you going to do about it? And before we even sat down in the office, the pastor, the main pastor, said, he's confessed. We know what happened. We believe she seduced him. And so somehow he had convinced not only the main pastor, but the entire church that me at 13 had seduced a grown man who was in a position of authority. And I was mortified. I was broken. I was blamed. And I took a lot of that blame and internalized it after the fact. My mom went, left the church, knew that was wrong, said, we're going to go to the police. And I just was like, we're in a small town, mama. Like, I've already, like, not only have I been rejected by this man who I thought was actually somebody that I cared about that didn't realize he was using me, that I was also rejected by the church. And then my dad didn't handle it well, so I was rejected 3 times. And I just said, I'm not looking to go into a police situation where we're going to be a long drawn out situation. And now the entire town definitely will know. And you know, I don't want to do that. And so we just internalized it, and I took all that blame and all that internalization of shame and made it into, when you hide something, a wound festers. And so then what it festered into was a lot of partying, deciding to experiment to get rid of some of the pain. And so, and then it turned into an eating disorder to kind of, you know, release some of the tension of that. And then it spiraled from there. And so when I went to university, I started experimenting with heroin. And so I was doing heroin almost daily. I was doing cocaine. I was doing all the, really hard drugs, using needles, intravenous using, sharing needles, all the things. I'd been dealing drugs at some point, and then one day, it all changed.
Oh, um, let's go back for just a second. First of all, I'm so sorry. As a pastor, it breaks my heart to hear how that was covered up.
Yeah.
Right is right and wrong is wrong, and horrific. And so your dad, was he more just not supportive, or did he take sides, or how did that shake out?
Yeah. Hold on one second. I just realized that I don't have a charger for my computer. I know we're live, and that's really bad.
Hey, it's
I,
it's
I
all
don't
good.
want.
It's the
I don't
joys of
want.
being live.
I don't want it to die. Sorry. Can I pause real fast? Because otherwise, my computer is going to die.
You're fine. You're fine. Now, everybody listening, I can assure you, you do not want me to sing anything to fill the space here. But this is a good opportunity for me to say, if you've been stuck in pursuing the next dream that's on your heart, I've got a thought and a solution to that. Christy D's fellow coach and I are hosting a 1 hour masterclass Monday, this coming Monday, July 20th at 4 Central, called Worthy of the Next Step. I'm talking to all you guys out there in Facebook land that are stuck, need a little momentum. You know what's on your heart to pursue, but for a plethora of reasons, you have not pursued it. This class will help you to take those steps that you've always wanted to take, and you won't have to do it alone. Worthy of your next step. Monday, 4 o'clock. Please join us. It's all over Facebook. Links, QR codes. Anyway, enough about that. Hey, that was better than singing, wasn't
Yeah, that was really good. I'm glad that you got
it?
to pitch your thing. I'm so sorry, but I've got no earring. My phone, my computer wasn't plugged in. I mean, I've done hundreds of interviews, and that has never happened. So you're lucky. I just totally dropped the ball. But anyhow, so yeah, my life changed in an instant after that.
Well, so it sounds like at some point there was a huge turnaround. Was that still while you were at Texas, or was it after?
So I went to university and, dropped out of school because I was partying still and, you know, didn't really have any desire to do anything else. I was still writing. I was still, trying to live the dream of, I'm called and chosen to spread a message and to do what I'm doing now. And I couldn't, at some point those weights, one weight outweighs the other, and you can't hold both because it's impossible to have salt water and sweet water in the same place. And so I think that the Lord saw my distress, knew that it, wasn't because I was just this awful person. It was just because I was broken. And one day I walked into a church. I was actually dressed like the bride of Satan. I've always loved kind of alternative fashion, but I was wearing this large black tutu that went all the way to the ground, like a large wedding bouffant wedding dress at the bottom, and this like black bodice, and I had made a black veil, and I had blood red lipstick on. And so I walk in one day, or Thursday at a 2 p.m. time to a church because I wanted a Bible, and I wanted to research for something I was writing that was very apocalyptic. And I just said, "Can I have a Bible?" And I'm sure these little old ladies, there's two little old ladies in there at a Presbyterian church, Methodist church, and they must have thought, "What in the witchcraft just walked into our church? Like, who is this? Who is this lady? What is she going to do?" So they went in the back and they got me a Bible. But while they were in the back, I had this like overwhelming desire and need to get into the chapel. And I walked over to the chapel to see what it looked like. Open, it's a double door, and I'm shaking it. And I thought, that made me want to go in even more. And so when they came out with my Bible
Wow.
that they were going to gift me, I said, "Can I get into the chapel?" And they were like, "What are you going to like? Why?" And I said, and just from inside of who I am rose up this guttural cry. And I just said, "I need to pray." And when I walked into that church, there was this beautiful wooden carved crucifix of Jesus hanging. And at the moment that I saw that, I knew I was home. And it's similar to the second verse in Amazing Grace that says, "The moment that I knew I was a sinner, I knew that my sins had been forgiven." And it says it differently, but I just knew that everything that I'd ever done, wrong, right, things that had been done to me, wrong, right, was washed away. And the dam broke, and I just knew that forever and ever, from that moment on, that my life was different, and that I was going to tell people about the forgiveness and the relationship and the realness of who Jesus Christ is, and the fact that he will meet you at your darkest corner in your darkest hour, and he won't judge you. He won't condemn you. He won't say, "Oh my gosh, you did all these awful things. How dare you?" He just open arms received me as a daughter. And I just sat in that church for probably 2 hours, read the Bible, cried. And my life has forever, ever been changed.
I love, love, love that part of your story because what we didn't do, and we're going to keep moving forward, but I'm sure in some of those dark days in Austin at Texas, University of Texas, being addicted and taking heroin daily, I'm sure you could tell story after story of close calls, extremely graphic, dark nights. I love that your horrific encounter at 13 years old, the enemy didn't get the final say. I love that your heart was still open and and you're right. God is a redemptive God.
Mhm.
And I love that part of your story. Praise God for sure. Um, so tell us how you got into what you're doing now. How did you get into pageantry? How did you get into helping other women? Give us a glimpse behind the curtain, if you will.
Sure, sure. But before I do, I want to make sure that any mother out there that's dealing with a wayward teenager, and as a mom, I know the heartache of having teenagers that don't walk in the path that you really want them to walk into, is to know that your child is always watched by the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and there is nothing out that happens that he does not know about. There were moments I was hanging out of a 30-foot, no, 30 story window up 30 floors in New York City from a bed sheet. And I won't get into it. It's an awful story and it makes me cringe every single
Oh,
time. But I mean, I should have fallen to my death at that point, and I didn't. And there were so many other
oh,
stories that, I mean, I was in crazy dangerous situations, and God, sought and saw to protect me. And so as a mom myself, and as mothers out there that might have a child, son or daughter, that are not living the way that you want them to live, just know your prayers mean the world. Just keep praying, keep pressing in. Don't worry about the details. Just know that at the end of the day, God is faithful and he wins the battle. And so
love it. Love it. So true.
yeah. So how I got to where I'm at now. There's a lot of information in there, but let me see if I can sum up. So I went on, met the love of my life. He's still the love of my life, my knight in shining armor. I'm his damsel in distress. I'm always getting myself into trouble, and he's always rescuing me. And I am so grateful to him. And he and I got married. We met each other in the church and the TV ministry at a large church we were attending at the time. He was a videographer. I was a journalist. We both were in the College of Communications, and just thought, this is the one that I want to be with, because he said that he wanted to make movies for Jesus and stuff like that. And so I was just like, this is like a guy after my own heart. And so we got married and then quickly found out we were pregnant, and which was, a surprise. And then I fell into this role of mother that I just didn't, I honestly didn't really see myself necessarily not being a mother, but I never thought it would be like this, the cornerstone of who I was as a person. And I fell into that role like rather nicely, and I enjoyed being a mother. We found out we were pregnant again. We actually planned the second one so that the first one could have a friend. Then the third one came along, and then the fourth one, and the fifth one. It just kept happening, and we decided to homeschool. So I homeschooled the children, and try. And then I had this dream, like I still want to write. So I started blogging, was like a big thing. So I started blogging in the heyday of blogging. Got somewhat of a following there, and then kept doing that and homeschooling. But it started to kind of, those two identities started to tear away. I was trying to balance being a good mom, a good Christian, a good wife, a good sister, a good blogger, a good this, and they and at some point, I was just like, man, this blogging thing, like, it's taking so much out of me, and I'm not really making any money. I'm not getting anything out of it. Like, yes, I get, some speaking engagements here and there. I get some awards here and there, but it was taking a lot out of me. And it wasn't just that it was taking away from my family. It was taking away from like that, like, what are you calling me to do here, Lord? Like, if you're not gonna fully bless it, then let's be done. And so around 2020, we found ourselves in $10,000 of debt. We had taken a vacation to Hawaii, and my husband was being pushed out of his job. It was right before 2020. COVID hadn't happened. And I had applied for a job at a very prestigious magazine, sorry, not magazine, news organization in New York. And they flew me up after 4 interviews, flew me up to New York. I thought, this is it. This is my big break. Um, they've seen all my passion, everything that I do. Thought it was a great interview. And then right before Thanksgiving, 2019, November 2019, I got the call that I didn't get the job. And I thought, that's it. Like, that is the nail in the coffin. I don't want to share my story. I'm shutting down my blog. I'm taking all my titles off Amazon. I'm deleting all my YouTube videos. Like, I am out, deleting all my social media channels. Lost, tons of followers, and just went dark completely. And I was so depressed. I was so discouraged because I just thought, when you feel called to something and you don't and it doesn't work out the way you think it should work out, right? And then you have all these other pulls on your life. You've got family, you've got finances, you've got, you're struggling in different areas, and you're like, this is just, it's just not worth it. It 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 does something. It kind of it breaks something inside of you. And something I didn't probably know needed to be broken was that I was trying to build this kingdom for God, but not with God. And so I closed it all down, and I was in my bed one day and I was crying, and I'm like, Lord, we've got this debt. I don't know who I am. I've got all these kids. We just, I'm overwhelmed. Like, and I was listening to Lauren Daigle's Rescue Me, which says, I will send out an army in the middle of the night. I will find you. And I just thought, Lord, you've got to come find me. Like, I am in a dark place. I don't know what to do. And, after that day, I was driving and I saw a piece of furniture on the side of the road. And I said, I don't need that, but it's fixing to go in the trash truck's minutes behind me. I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. And so I did that. And I did that for 6 months and paid off $10,000 of debt. And then took that and turned it into, it kind of shifted towards vintage furniture and made a six-figure vintage furniture business in the first year. And so I just was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Until the day that God decided to call me and say, it's time to share your story again. So,
Oh, so how do we, okay, how do we go from vintage furniture to whatever you're about to tell us next?
so I was, I kept hearing this or feeling, I'm sitting there doing vintage furniture, and I'm got, uh, furniture stain in my nails. Like, I never do my nails because I'm just gonna mess them up with brown furniture stain. And I would feel this tap, and I just was like, Lord, I hear you. I hear you. I know what you're telling me to do. And I would physically put my hand over like my face like a visor, and I would say, I just sell vintage furniture. Leave me alone. I'm not sharing my story. I don't want to do that. Like, I've done that before. It didn't work out. This vintage furniture thing is making me tons of money. It's so easy. I mean, it just, when something is working, it's working, and you're like, I'm not messing this up. Like, if it ain't fixed, don't broke, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I
Mhm.
didn't want to, but I mean, it's hard when you have a calling and you are doing something that, I was ministering to people. I was praying for people. I was, thinking about the people that were buying my furniture, but it's not the same as sharing your story and your testimony. And one of my favorite verses is, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. Sharing our testimony is our part. God did the one part. Our part is to share our testimony. And so this opportunity opened, and because I had the financial ability to go to this conference, is what opened up the doors. Because before, I was always, if I tried to go to a blog conference, I had to buy the cheapest ticket and stuff like this, and I could barely afford it. And so when I saw this conference opportunity, it was a speaking conference. I said, Lord, if you want me to go, you got to pay for it. I ain't doing it. And so I said, you got to pay for it today. Like, send me enough money. And so within 2 hours, I made enough money. It was like $1,000. I made enough money to buy the conference ticket. As I'm checking out for the hotel, I was like, oh, I need hotel money. My phone goes to ching, and I have enough money to buy, for the hotel and the travel there. And I was like, okay, God, I don't like. I'm actually kind of pissed off. Like, I don't know what you're doing, and I don't really like it because I've walked down this road before. And so I went to the conference, met somebody who's now one of my best friends, who had purchased a ticket above me, which included, so the first ticket, my ticket included a headshot, which I was like, I don't need a headshot. I'm just going to the conference. And then her ticket had included a speaker's reel, which is like where you look like an MTV style speaker. It looks, you send it to people you want to have speaking events with. And so she donated that speaker reel to me because she didn't want to do it. And so I said, okay, God, like, what are you doing here? Because I don't do this anymore. And then I came home and went to a women's meeting, and Miss America was speaking. And didn't want to go to this women's meeting. I tried to put it off. My friend kept begging me. I said, no, I'm not going to go. She was like, okay, well, you don't have to go Friday, come Saturday. Well, Saturday, Miss America speaking. And she said the only thing that could have ever pulled me out of, I'm not doing this. And she said, as Miss America, I was able to go into places, to schools, to prisons, and speak the name of Jesus in places that normally normal people can't go and speak. And I said, okay, God, you got my attention. So I start looking it up. It's at this old archaic website, that looked like it was built in 2005. And I was just like, I can't do this on my phone. I'm just going to listen, keep listening to the sermon. Didn't really feel like I fit into the Miss America category because I was a heroin addict. I had, done roller derby. I was a vintage furniture resale. Like I wore Doc Martens up to my, knees in high school. Like this was not like I wasn't a cheerleader. And so I hung out with the cheerleaders, but I also hung out with the pot smokers. So, it's like I didn't really feel like I fit into that category. And so I kind of wrote it off. But the next week I was at a business conference and Miss Universe was there. And she said the same thing. She said, if you have a story to share, put on a crown and a sash and people will start paying attention. And I said, all right, God, you got my attention, but you have to pay for it. And then the floodgates opened. People started donating. People started giving me free stuff. People started, saying, yes, I'll support you. I had a fundraiser at a mansion with a guitar-shaped pool. They wanted to hang motorcycles from the ceiling for me. A Broadway singer came to my fundraiser to sing. Made thousands of dollars of the fundraiser, fully funded my pageant journey. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Like obviously I'm gonna win. And so imagine my surprise when I didn't not just win, I didn't even make top 12. So, but that's what started the journey into, becoming Mrs. Texas, or United States of America's Mrs. Texas. And then now Mrs. Texas USA Globe is this, the story that I wanted to share with the world, which was Jesus saves. He saves the least of those.
Oh, and it started off by an act of obedience, denying yourself, going to something you didn't think you wanted to go to, that you didn't want to go to, and God showed up. And you don't know this about me, but I've got a keynote called On the Other Side of Your Yes. And look what God did when you said yes to going that Saturday morning, and He opened up the floodgates. Wow. And so, okay, we can see behind you. Probably they're not even all of your titles. Um, some of your titles, and were they right? Was the advice right that you'll get to share Jesus, you'll get to share your testimony? Has God used it that way?
Absolutely. So in the last 3 years since I started, I entered at 42. I'm 45 now. I have spoken on over 90 podcasts and stages, sharing my story, my testimony, whatever part of that that people wanted to hear. But the biggest moment was actually after a loss, of realizing what I was actually meant to do. Now, of course, I see myself on stages. I see myself, with followers and people that are reading my books and TED Talks and all the things, right? But after I lost the fourth time, so it took me 5 times to win. After I lost the fourth time, I remember it was somebody who had actually sponsored me had come in to my pageant journey as a sponsor and said, you know what, this looks like fun. I just want to be, she was Mrs. Georgetown. She was a realtor. She just wanted to sell more houses. That's all I want to do. She didn't want to win. And she didn't do any, I mean, I taught her a couple things, but she's an amazing person on her own, right? But she went in and she won. And I was actually her third runner up. And I thought, okay, Lord, like I don't mind not winning. That's not the point because, pageantry is an expensive hobby. And I had been exhausting myself pageant after pageant after pageant, trying to get to this goal of winning. And I said, Lord, but you got to pull back the curtains. You got to show me what you're doing here. Like, am I never going to reach the pinnacle that I'm looking for? And is only my goal to help other people reach the pinnacle, which is fine. But you just need to really make it clear because it's really hurting me because I feel like I have this purpose. And I went to a room right after that. I was in the shower and crying, my makeup, crying not because I lost, but crying because I felt like a loss of purpose and went to return something to her in a hotel room. And I walk in and I'm just like, I just met her randomly, and she started pageantry. She wasn't a Christian or anything like that. And I said, "Oh, Tessa, I'm just so excited for you. Like God has such great things for you." And she looked at me and she said, "Elaine, I know God has great things, but did you know that you're the reason I'm following Christ today? And it was
Mm.
like an immediate answer to what I had said. Lord, pull back the curtain, show me what's underneath. And God immediately was like, you this whole time have been thinking that you're seeking this earthly crown, this crown of rhinestones, when I'm over here trying to create for you a crown that will not rust, that moth cannot destroy. And that's the moment that I realized I know that I love the big stage, I love the big lights, all the things, but changing someone's life for eternity is so much more important. And so at that point, I realized I'm just going to run. And if I never win, I'll be the Susan Lucci of pageantry. Again, that's a reference from the 90s. She was a daytime soap opera
Yeah.
star that like was nominated and nominated and nominated and nominated and never won. I think it took her like 20, 25 years to win her first daytime Emmy. And so I was just like, I'll be Susan Lucci if that's what you want me to be. But I wasn't. I won my next pageant, so it worked out. But it just really gave me that perspective of what God was really doing versus what I wanted.
Wow, that's incredible. So fulfilling. Um, how are you specifically helping those women today?
So when I walked into pageantry, I came in with 25 years of digital communication experience as a journalist. I did go back to school. I did graduate with a journalism degree. I went into multimedia, or actually it was print journalism, then kind of shifted over to multimedia journalism, and then went into design, graphic design, advertising. And because I had all of this experience, I had been on New York Times book launches with New York Times bestselling authors. Um, I'm trying to remember her name. Anyhow, it was a book about anyhow, it was a book about a movie that was kind of raunchy, and she had written the like counterpart to it. And so I was on her book launch team. I'd written for another New York Times bestselling author who had a blog. I wrote it for her blog, and I kind of saw all the behind the scenes. I knew what it took. I had done all my own tech stuff and all the behind the scenes stuff to build a brand. And I came into pageantry and realized that there were so many of these beautiful women with beautiful stories that just couldn't articulate it. They couldn't necessarily articulate it verbally. They had a beautiful story, but they would like get lost in the weeds of their story, or they didn't know how to do the tech for it. They didn't know how to promote it on social media. They didn't know how to get an interview on a podcast or get in the, news and be featured that way, or even land sponsors and learn why you want to land sponsors, not just to because you don't want to pay for things, but because it promotes your local economy and the community, and you get more involved with people, and you start realizing, wow, these people have stories and ambitions, and I am like so blessed to partner with them to help their dreams and their ambitions grow, while I also, be a micro influencer and help promote their product, whether it be nails or a clothing line or whatever like that. And so I came in with that knowledge, and I said, I've got to get these women. Like, there's tons of pageant coaches, walking coaches, all the interview coaches, but there's not a lot of media coaches and PR coaches. And so that's where I came in and kind of filled in that gap. It is a very new industry in the pageant world. And so I am probably one of the pioneers, if I say so myself, of that calling pageantpreneur, where I'm taking the entrepreneurialism of the business world and all I've known, because I did product sales with my vintage furniture business, and then taking the pageantry because it's very specific. It's not like regular social media marketing. You have like a pageant system you're trying to promote, you have sponsors you're trying to promote, and you're trying to promote your own initiative. And so it's a three-prong thing that it's different than like if a business that just hires a social media manager. They only promote their product. They don't have to do anything else. And so helping women really gain visibility using the techniques, both like theoretical and also practical, getting them set up, making sure that they have the right parameters in place to get that visibility.
That's fascinating. You would think media coach, something similar. You would think that would be part of the process after all these years. And I'm glad there is a process, and there's yourself and more on your heels starting to help women with that. That's got to be so fulfilling work. I'm sure you've been asked this question many times, and I'm asking it because I didn't read anything about it in the bio. I haven't heard you say anything about it, and I'm thinking about your life, and you've for close to an hour where we've been talking, and your story's fascinating. When's the book?
So that's interesting. I always have been wanting to write a book about my life. I knew my life, needed its own Netflix documentary, honestly. But um but I'm slowly starting to kind of put things together, figuring out what parts I want to leave out and what parts I want to leave in because, there's a lot of darkness in my past and I have children. And so I have to be really careful with
Yeah.
what I say about them because they have their own stories. And so I'm slowly working on it. Just try not to jump ahead of myself for sure. But yeah, it'll be there at some point.
That wasn't a hard push. That was a gentle nudge. It'd be that would be an amazing read for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Elaine, tell folks where they can find you on social media, websites. We'll have all those links in the show notes, but where can people find you and learn more about the amazing work you're doing?
Yeah, so I have Pageantpreneur on Instagram, which is all, and also pageantpreneur.com, where I offer, it's a $27 kind of bundle course where I offer 23, 24 different modules where I teach women how to get seen, how to get sponsors, how to run their social media, and how to tell their story. And I do that because, I was a mom of so many, and we were on welfare at some point, and I mean, that's a whole different story. And I wanted to make sure that the average pageant woman could have some sort of training so they could do it because I've had to be scrappy. I've had to bootstrap my entire career. And so I wanted to offer that to them. And so that's at pageantpreneur.com, pageantpreneur on Instagram, pageantpreneur on TikTok. And then in general, if there's vintage furniture, stuff like that, that's all like Curb Vulture. And then Elaine Mingus, if you just search me up, I'm sure you'll find multiple things on me. Hopefully all good.
Yeah, yeah. What words of encouragement would you give to the person that is in a dark season today?
Mhm.
Um, Maybe it took everything they had just to get out of bed today and to get dressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
They feel stuck. They feel hopeless. What words of encouragement would you give them today?
Yeah. Number one is to not judge a book by its cover. It's easy to look at my life, even now, and say, oh, she's got it all together. But I have a whole life behind this screen that is messy and has its own ups and downs that I deal with. And because comparison is the thief of all joy. And I've been there. I've been to a place where I was dangerously close to ending my life. And I know the desperation and I know the self-hatred that happens when you feel like you're not enough, like you're not worthy. And just knowing that God can take your darkest moments and turn them into the brightest light. I heard somewhere, and I don't know if it was Einstein or somebody was talking about like we see our life linearly, right? We see it as like we see
Yep.
like a giant hole, right? And God, if you think about it, if you don't think it linearly, you think about it like from different angles that a giant hole looks like a cap, like a deficit on this side. But if you look from the other angle, it actually is a blossoming. And so realizing that just because you see the deficit, God sees everything. And what your deficit looks like now is an actual rebirth and a blossoming that's happening on the other side. That if you can just hold out, you can keep faith, you can believe in things not yet seen, then you'll get to where you need to go.
Such good, solid advice from Elaine. Hold on, keep the faith, don't compare, don't judge a book by its cover. All of that is super, super gold. Elaine, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing the victory, sharing family, sharing fun, sharing redemption, sharing going back to school, sharing victories, sharing hardships, sharing coming in third, fourth, fifth, 13th, but eventually winning and praising God in those victories. But then turning around and helping women not only find career success, but pointing them to Jesus and being vulnerable with us about a very, very difficult situation, that I would imagine, even though we don't have time to go here, I would imagine that situation affected you greatly when you entered into marriage, and probably affected you greatly when those bright lights were first starting to hit. Though those feelings of I'm not worthy of this, I'm not worthy of that. I really, really appreciate the vulnerability and the authenticity that you brought today. Thank you so much for being my special guest.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Guys, this is why I created this. If you've never noticed before, on the banner on our Facebook group, yeah, it says You Are Worthy Network at the top. But in the bottom left corner, it says your story's not over yet. Think about Elaine's story, how many times it could have been over, but God wasn't done with her. And kind of to her point about linear versus nonlinear, you look at those times in her life that were dark, that appeared hopeless. They may have been long chapters, but chapters in her story nevertheless. God was still writing her story, and he's still writing yours. And I know the chapter you may be going through right now may be difficult, but it will pass. And there'll be a chapter where you're at the mountaintop, and awesome, share that with us. That won't last either, by the way. But you've got some of your best chapters still ahead of you, still to be lived. So that's why it's important when folks like Elaine and myself tell you to hang on, keep the faith, don't try to do it alone. Those aren't empty words, those are principles and actions to live by. So know that I appreciate each one of you. You're worthy because of the blood of Jesus, and your story's not over yet. Until next time, God bless. Take care.